Okay, here's the history of home video and however long this video is. In the beginning, I'm talking like the 1920s, there was the theater. And that was cool and all, but people wanted to be able to watch stuff without having to leave their house after a while. There was the radio, but that required you to just sit there and look at each other? Who the hell wants to do that? Humans are ugly. Well, after World War II, we got televisions, and we were still mostly looking at humans. But now they were on a screen, so the house was kind of like a movie theater. And every once in a while, the television would play movies too. But what about those monopoly men who want to watch movies anytime they want? Well, you have home projectors now, I guess. If you were a somewhat rich monopoly man, then you could only afford 8mm. And so your version of Star Wars was cut to bits to keep your reel from being bigger than your goddamn airhead. For really rich monopoly men, you had 16mm, which would put full movies on 2 giant-ass reels.
Monkey!
And the select few, very special ass hats would have the cream of the crop. Full-blown 35mm projectors, just like the ones in the movie theaters. The industry stayed stagnant for the next few decades, until suddenly consumers realized in the late 1970s that they had a problem. Gee, I really want to watch MASH this week, but it's on at the same time as my bowling league. If only there was a way I could record a broadcast for later. Oh hey, VHS! Yeah, it was big and bulky, but the VCR would eventually allow your average consumer to record anything off the TV to eventually watch later. Yeah, there was also beta, but since beta's recording lengths were nowhere near that of VHS, the format dropped dead pretty quick. Meanwhile, a little company called Magnetic Video asked 20th Century Fox, who were now on the verge of bankruptcy, to license them a few random titles from their back catalog. You know, things like The Sound of Music, Patton, shit your grandma would like. After scoring 50 titles for just a cool $50,000, Magnetic Video took off, making millions by selling licensed copies of Fox features. This pissed off certain studios. Sid Sheinberg, the head of Universal, felt that you should have to pay for every time you view a movie. That is until he saw the profits, of course. Here's E.T., guys. Like Sheinberg, every other corporate bigwig wanted to maintain a pay-per-view sort of strategy. When Disney first got into home video, they were like, fuck you! If you want to own Pinocchio, you're gonna have to pay $80. This would require your average Joe to have to rent the film rather than buy it. But after this strategy led to only mediocre sales, Disney dropped the price of Pinocchio down to $30. And then money actually started flowing in. Over time, other companies would try to provide a high-quality alternative to the VHS. The most famous example is Laserdisc. I don't own one, so here's the vinyl record, which is very similar in structure and look. Laserdisc had significantly improved picture, but it couldn't record off the TV, so it was kind of poop.
In this segment, we want to talk about how to arrive at the best possible picture on your home television set. And let's start out with a basic definition of terms. This, you've seen it before, is a VHS video cassette.
Thanks, Raj.
Which has become the international standard for home video viewing. And this is a Laserdisc, which represents the next generation for home video fans. You can think of a Laserdisc as sort of a great big compact disc that plays pictures as well as sound. The difference between this and this is that a Laserdisc delivers a much better video picture, 60% better, and sound that can be as good or better as many movie theaters.
In fact, the only real competition to VHS came in the mid-1990s. You see, consumers really liked how compact the compact disc, or CD, was. And so some genius suggested they put movies on a compact disc. So they did. But VCD sucked. So they changed the algorithms to make DVD. And it frickin' exploded.
This is DVD. And this is what happens when you watch DVD. It's a movie on a disc the size of a CD.
By 2003, DVDs were being rented at a faster rate than VHS, and that same year, Finding Nemo came out on the new format, selling nearly 40 million units, which is still a record today. The home video industry had finally found its holy grail. VHS got tossed aside real fast, with the last new release on the format being A History of Violence in 2006. Nothing could ruin DVD's hot streak. And then the DVD manufacturers said, "Let's ruin DVD's hot streak." High-definition television was emerging by this point, and manufacturers wanted a way to keep up with the upgraded resolution. Sony, who had made Beta back in the late 70s, said, "Hey, we have this thing called BluRay, which is really special and fixes our problem." Then the other DVD manufacturers said, "Let's just make HD DVDs." Thus began this big stupid fight where everyone could have come together to make the next generation of DVD, but instead they fought like idiots. It even spread into video games. Sony built a Blu-ray player into their PlayStation 3, which is why it initially cost so much. Microsoft supported HD DVD with the Xbox 360, if you were willing to cough up the $200 for an add-on. Nice endorsement, Bill. Eventually, Sony played their trump card by getting Disney to solely support Blu-ray. HD DVD had Warner Brothers in their corner, but then they saw how well Blu-rays were selling, said, and abandoned ship. Blu-ray had finally won. Sort of. Netflix had begun in 1997 as a DVD by mail rental service. It used a subscription format, so those pesky late fees that people at Blockbuster complained about became non-existent. A decade later, they began a streaming service available for all subscribers. And today, streaming is all people care about. Sure, there are niches of people who still buy Blu-ray, DVD, and even VHS. Disc manufacturers have tried to get back into the market with new 4K discs, but the business model isn't worth it anymore. Why spend $20 on one movie when you can watch a dozen in a month for half the price on Netflix? The answer is preservation. Streaming libraries are always changing. Friends is only months away from leaving Netflix. All of Disney's stuff is gone. As everyone and their uncle creates their own streaming libraries, media will fall by the wayside. That's why I'm sticking with my physical copies, at least to some degree. The last thing I want to do is lose control over whether I can watch the movies I love.